Oh, how'd your show go the other night?
It was awesome. It was really good. Yeah. I mean, I had so much fun. I improv those shows, so
I know.
It just feels great to just go out, like, and it's very, I have to say, it's the only time I get nervous at all, which
60
is great.
seconds, guys.
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm jumping there, Johnny Billy Pow. There he is, right away. Oh my God, the Maga Meltdown continues. We will be doing the show in a moment. We're about to start the radio show, but hi, chat room. Welcome. Everybody gather in. Holy hell. Are they having a rough one? No. Although I do have a side story that I watched this morning because I kind of keep track of all these kind of international, national news stories. There's this constant waddle of stuff. And holy hell, like, hold on. I have to find it where I can bring it up and show it to you because it's, it's about Chinese AI, and it's magnificent.
Yay. Lisa Mia Moore's throwing out some memberships. Just showing off.
Thank you, Lisa Mia Moore. Hold on.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Now, live from Chicago, the Hal Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Hal Sparks, actor, comedian, and multimedia personality.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hal Sparks.
All right, let's do this.
All right, welcome to the show. There's too much show. We're already out of time because there's so much stuff going on.
Thanks for stopping by, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for coming in, everybody. Johnny Billion, joy to be with you today. Wearing a T-shirt, if you're not watching the live stream, that says "Support your local library," and we could not believe that more. And so it's one of the reasons why we love our Mason brothers is because they're why we have public libraries. I'm just saying. That's true. So lots of stuff to cover today. But before we get into the massive MAGA meltdown that is happening, the wrenching of garments, this is the end of the end of the beginning of the end that they are all going through, which to all of them I would like to say in a moment of seriousness, maggots, calm down, simmer.
Seriously.
America, the country you love, the greatest country on the face of the universe, will not collapse because Donald Trump gets busted for trying to pay off a porn star during a campaign and telling banks his properties are worth more than they are and the IRS less, or even trying to manipulate the governor of Georgia into throwing the election his way after he lost. None of those things are going to destroy the country.
Now, keep in mind, Hal and I
live
and Hal lived in Illinois, where more often than not, our governors, once they're done serving, go to jail.
That's
it's
right.
Just
That's
what
true.
We do.
Mayors across, if all the states in the country, perhaps New York
might win, dude.
I think so. I think because you're getting governors and mayors and aldermen and all that stuff.
Ryan.
Yeah.
Like they all went down.
Oh yeah. And New York is pretty much just like, your the occasional mayor who doesn't, well, I guess nothing happens to them. That's the thing. I think the one thing that Illinois can take credit for is actually jailing our criminal politicians. Good for us.
There's a sentencing phase.
That's right. New York is just kind of like, what do you want to do next, governor? Or
right.
You just want us to name an airport after you? What do you want? So it's not going to happen.
Midas Sue in the chat said, Illinois says, hold my beer.
Exactly. And Hal Vickery, thank you so much for the super chat. And Therese and Jeremiah, bless you guys for supporting the show. Love you guys. And remember, everybody can support with patreon.com/Hal Sparks. And of course, super chats and whatnot keeps us on the air, keeps us happening because it's you, and support independent journalism. Oh God, I hate that stuff. Anyways, all right. So
but that's what you are, dude. Sorry.
Ouch.
You are independent journalism.
I am.
You are of the people.
See, here's the thing. I almost push back on that because I would view myself more as sort of an online commentator. Like, calm down. I'm a professional pundit or something at this point. But the reality is I actually do enough research and enough like what my write-ups. I will put my write-ups on Twitter as far as the the details around the dollar, oil prices, the economy. Although I will put those up against any economist I see on there that I differ with. I suppose if we're gonna obviously comparing it to people that agree with you is just patting yourself on the back. But right, which I'm not against. Also, but
it's so fun.
Yeah, it's just I wish my arms were longer because I deserve it. But the point is, I will put my write-ups based on my study of these things and my wonkiness around policy right up there with anybody, because I don't want to waste anyone's time being wrong. That's my biggest driving factor in a lot of these. Is like I would feel bad if I was like, oh yeah, this is going to happen Wednesday and it didn't happen. You know what I mean? I would feel like a jerk. Apparently, I'm relatively alone in that feeling, especially if the group I'm walking around in is right-wing punditry, including
boy.
I mean, because I will say,
if being wrong is wrong, I don't want to be how does
right
this
wing
go?
Yeah, right. Oh my God. So yesterday, I just did kind of on my afternoon live stream and partly in the morning, I just did a little bit of a wrap up. If people want to check it out at infotainmentwars.com or at twitch.tv/HalSparks.
It was started out great too, because he's like, my name is Hal, and I'm here to say I like to say news in a different way.
Did I really?
It was a wrap up.
Oh wow. Anyways, so wrong. Yes, without a W. I suppose is wrong. Sure. Oh, that's terrible. All right. So help me stay on track a little bit because there's a lot to cover today. So I did basically a rundown. Then how's that? And then you're going to do something about Reverend Run and Run DMC, and then we're stuck in the same hole I was stuck in. Anyways, of all the people who are wigging out about the results of what's going to happen now that Trump has been indicted, this is it. The can of worms, Pandora's box, the abyss has been opened. This will trigger the rapture and the super volcano under Yosemite.
Oh my God! Wait, I'm sorry. The super chat just went out of hand. Carol Cobb just hit us.
Oh,
aspiring
lovely.
to Hal Vickrydom.
Oh my gosh.
Cliffy. There's so many.
They're hard to read. Some of them.
Yeah.
I can't see them. You see them faster than I do. So, oh, nice. Thank you. Bless you guys. Thanks for the support. And it's it keeps me honest. It keeps me wanting to make sure that I'm not selling you a bill of goods. Well,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but it was hard to ignore those.
Understood. I will probably freak out when they show up on my end of things. They just happen on your end faster. So, the thing I have to say about all of the commentators yesterday, all of them, is that they are saying the exact same thing they said in August after the Trump search warrant, after the Mar-a-Lago search warrant.
And what's that thing?
That this is the end of the rule of law, and that this is they're weaponizing the Justice Department to attack their political opponent. We're a banana republic. We're America's a third world country. Blah blah blah. Like it's the same stuff. There is and it. I don't know if you noticed, but the country didn't grind to a halt in August or September or October, November, December. It isn't now. Is it January, February? Nothing. No. And it's not going to.
Yeah,
it is
or
not
after Spiro Agnew or anything.
Exactly. Or after Iran-Contra, after, we get through these things. It's part of the resilience of our system. And I would like to say, for the record, that I have never heard any more un-American, unpatriotic garbage than people thinking that we can't survive Donald Trump getting busted for paying a porn star. And by the way, like, if you think America is that weak...
I'm sorry, when you put it like that, Hal, come on.
Yeah, like... We as America, we fought the Nazis, but somehow we can't deal with a second-generation rich kid who's cadavering his father's business, had to borrow $50 million from his siblings to keep the lights on in the 90s, lost more money than anyone in New York real estate the year he wrote Art of the Deal. The Apprentice itself as a show was apparently, he and his entire family were not aware that whole show was based on irony. It was a comedy game show because the idea that anybody could learn business from Donald Trump is hilarious. And making your like celebrities have to listen to this doofus was like even more of that. It was just like goofier. It was getting wacky at that point, honestly.
Yeah.
So we can survive Donald Trump. We can survive him being indicted. We can survive him having a trial. We can survive him going to jail. We can survive him getting a fine and just going home and complaining. We can survive all of it. Because we're America, damn it. Now, I know what people are saying. Yeah, but our I can't even explain this on the radio without some sort of way of Johnny Million's gonna have to like describe what I'm about to show you. But everybody's gonna go like, we can't, if we lock up Trump and we've got a weak man in the White House and our enemies are laughing at us, we're the laughing stock, that whole story or whatever. And the Chinese, the Russians are gonna, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you evidence par excellence that
This
Johnny
is right
Million.
up my alley, Hal.
Yes, it is. Describe the picture that you are seeing right now in radio-friendly terms.
I feel like, is that a fish underneath the
fish.
squirrel?
Sort of, or part of the squirrel, or
There's some sort of fish squirrel hybrid on a kind of a fancy looking chinette with pseudo garnish.
Yes.
Both the
And it may be
squirrel and
that this
fish heads look fairly serene.
Mm-hmm. They're very
the tail is
comfortable.
floofy.
Mm-hmm.
They appear very in love.
Yes, it is either a squirrel consummating a relationship with a fish on a plate, or it is a squirrel with a fish appendage where his procreative organs should be on a plate. But this is, ladies and gentlemen, a fantastic example presented by our friends at the China Show, Serpent ZA and Lao I-86, of what happens when you type normal Chinese phrases into Chinese AI picture generators.
And what was the phrase?
Well, it's a plate that's the phrase itself is like sao shu yu. It's squirrel fish. It's called squirrel fish effectively. Like the plate means it's like how they splay the fish out so that it looks fluffy like a squirrel's tail almost behind it, and it's just the head and whatever.
Okay.
That's how they describe it. It's like if you did ma jiang mian, which is a spicy noodle dish, and it didn't understand the tones and it gave you horse noodles. It does that. So what I'm trying to tell you is Chinese AI doesn't speak Chinese.
Huh. There you go.
But they're going to eat our lunch and it's over, and they're laughing at our people. We got to take a break, and when we
Happy
come
birthday,
back,
Mark Kramer. Thank you for the super chat.
That's right, Mark Kramer. One more trip around the sun for me, no fooling. Happy New Year. Yes, do your
Holy
goals,
moly,
Mark.
and
And
Tom
by the way,
Moore.
I have patches for you. Remind me. All right, okay. Talk to you after the break. We'll be back.
Talk to you later.
Mm-hmm. See you later. Okay, enjoy. Bye. No, we're coming back. Hi, chat room. There you go. I just that squirrel fucking the fish. I fell over.
Oh, hang on. Peace is the word. Aloha, Hal and Johnny. It's been too long. Miss being able to regularly watch you and what you do. Funky Buddha Mark.
Oh, hey. Hey, Mark.
He just threw down with a ridiculous super chat.
Oh, dear. I haven't seen it yet. How are you,
Can I
brother?
see the number?
Hello.
Well, I guess everybody saw it. It's 250. Holy moly.
Oh,
Back
my
in
gosh.
60, guys.
Bless you.
Thank you,
Thank
Devin.
you so much.
Oh, Bald Thanos is never eating fish again.
Well, eating it isn't the problem in that picture, I don't think. Thanks so much, Mark.
No.
That's really lovely. Both Marks, by the way. Mark your calendar. It's a red letter day. It's appreciate you guys. And
Wait, your
now,
birthday's April Fool's Day, Mark? This I love.
maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. Maybe he's messing with us. Great. Yeah. Thank you so much. Let's see. We can't see the super chats on Twitch. Yeah, that's why Johnny reads them out. So, peace is the word. I agree. Lyle and Johnny, and I hope he's back in Hawaii because
10 seconds, guys.
Lovely. Thank you. I'm gonna apologize to the chat right away and some of the folks because welcome to Truth Social, ladies and gentlemen, if I may.
You're locked into the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So, it's obvious to everyone that, of course, Tucker Carlson thinks the world's going to end. Glenn Beck, actually, I think Tucker's lying, but Glenn Beck definitely was near tears yesterday 3 times under my count about this. Lindsey Graham looked like he'd been drinking and weeping or weeping.
That was amazing. I thought, was he crying?
There's no crying in politics. Yeah,
crying in fake punditry.
Yeah, right. No, he was. I don't know. It might have just been glassy-eyed drunkenness. That's a possibility. I don't know. But what I can tell you is that he might as well have been because he was weeping for the destruction of our country. Glenn Beck put on his MAGA hat. Glenn Beck and Donald Trump retruth this or posted this, and he does this all the time. The majority of Trump's posts, when he's not on some sort of big flail where he's just, either screaming into his phone or typing on his own or having somebody go, take what I'm saying, write it down and misspell some key words for me so it looks like I wrote it myself. Most of the time he's just posting articles from sycophants that support him or from people who are like horrified by what his followers say. In this particular case, media, where Glenn Beck tells Tucker Carlson that Trump's indictment means war, currency collapse, and a virtual police state, which just means you're going to get locked up in Meta. Apparently out in the world, you're not really in a police state, but the virtual ones are the worst or whatever, right? Nothing's worse than a police state in Gorilla Tag. But anyways, nobody even knows what the hell I'm talking about with Gorilla Tag. All right, so all of them, one of the things he put up is developing. The Bushes are running against Trump through proxy candidate DeSantis, according to GOP insiders in Texas and Florida. The entire Bush machine is behind his campaign, even helping run it. Hashtag low energy Jeb. Hashtag Bush family vendetta. So what I would like to remind everyone is that while Alvin Bragg apparently had to be dragged kicking and screaming to charge Trump on even the simplest of charges. And then while he had the grand jury gathered, it seems, if the 34 counts are to be believed, that while talking to some of the witnesses, they discovered other crimes that were presented or established, wherein the grand jury themselves went, yeah, that's a crime. We're calling that a crime. And by the time this is over, these guys will have dug themselves a hole so deep on the idea that there's, 4 charges. Michael Cohen paid Stormy, Trump paid Michael Cohen, and then he wrote something that he shouldn't have written, and then maybe it was campaign stuff. He should be paying a fine, and this is not a crime, and blah, blah, blah. That's what they're saying. There should, basically, that entire endeavor, and they don't consider the affair criminal, unethical, or even real, which is hilarious. Like, well, then, if you're paying your, again, this goes along with my constant statement, you can't leak a lie. Whenever Trump complains about something being leaked about him, it's true. It's the same when somebody says outrageous. Anybody who comes out, these charges are outrageous, that means they're true. Just for the record, anybody who says that, they're admitting guilt in front of God and man. But on top of that, Trump himself, the idea that he paid her extortion money, but it never happened. What chapter is that in The Art of the Deal? How stupid do you have to be extorted for a sexual escapade that never happened? If you weren't there, the only reason you don't have an alibi to cover this is I've been racking my brain why he thinks this is that he thinks he can win this, but it's actually horrifying. The only way that you can't come up with an alibi for an affair that you were having, not even an affair, it's a one afternoon, a one evening stand, a 1 3-hour stand, and it got shorter and shorter as it was, a 3-minute stand. The only reason you don't have an alibi for where you were at the time is if whatever you were doing was worse than that.
Right.
Right?
Good point.
If you aren't sleeping with a porn star and your wife is at home with your 5-month-old and you weren't engaged in that, just have whoever you were hanging out with tell everybody what you guys were doing. It seems and apparently you can't, because A, it's a lie, but if it is true, literally it's better that your evangelical base think you were sleeping with a porn star while your wife was at home with a 5-month-old versus what you were actually doing that night.
Oof.
So I don't know why they think he's safe from this whole thing. Because at some point, if he comes up and says, this was a lie, that never happened. All the prosecution has to do, okay, well, where were you? If you're being extorted, that's a crime. Why didn't you go to the police? We'd have helped you out.
Exactly.
This happens all the time. I've been extorted before. I mean, obviously poorly, but it was easy. Like, and the FBI will, like, they'll take your call, even if you're, just a dude on a little, a little dude on a LGBT show shooting in Canada. They'll go, all right, well, we'll take a look at it. Yeah, we got them. Don't worry. They do this all the time. Okay, cool. Bye. That was it. Like, it's not hard.
Oh, wow.
It's very difficult.
I'm sorry you had to deal with that, Al.
It's not. That's barely scratching the surface, my friend. Like, next to the
What
death
you've
threats
had to
we
deal
got
with?
on the DVD tour, that's nothing. But and since I was the one who wanted to go to all of them, I was the biggest target. It's a long story. Anyways, and we dealt with it all the time. But I'm telling you that if somebody in Donald Trump's position was being extorted over an affair he didn't have, he has so many resources available to him, none of which involve paying the person to shut up. Because again, this is not about a sexual assault. This is not one of those situations where somebody might pay off somebody because they're alleging a sexual assault that didn't happen. We'll operate on this idea of actual innocence for this analogy. Someone's accusing you of sexual assault that you didn't do. However, you were present when it may have happened. Like you were with them in the room, but it didn't occur, but you don't really have an out or an alibi, but you are indeed innocent. And you might be in a situation where even the story of this will destroy me. Therefore, pay them to shut up and move on. That absolutely occurs. It's a real thing. It happens. Ask sports people. It happens to them probably more than anybody.
Yeah.
And this is not talking about the guilty ones. I'm talking about innocent people in this particular instance. And if you are in that situation where you aren't in the room with that person, you were never in the building, you allege, then you don't pay it out. You present yourself as a true victim to the world, and people will understand, and they'll be angry with the person that accused you wrongly because it makes it harder for people who've really been sexually assaulted or what have you to get help, to get to have the police believe them and the like. Right? That yep. Goes part and parcel with it. And the idea, by the way, that somebody like Donald Trump is like protecting his image as a family man is just garbage. The other thing that came up this week, and we got to take a break in a second, but the biggest thing that came up this week, and I think I'm the only person that pointed it out, was when Joey Peanuts, the attorney for Donald Trump, was on I think he was on Newsmax, perhaps. It might have been Fox, but he said, this is something that happens all the time. It's not illegal. Paying off people, to keep them quiet about an affair because it would embarrass your family is not illegal, nor is it a crime. That's true.
Yep.
However, doing it as a campaign cover is, and in this particular instance, you have to go. You now have set up a situation where your client can be asked if he's going to establish an alibi out of this or establish innocence out of this. He can be asked, well, how many people have you paid off to keep quiet? Because we've got to know if this was different than normal. The timing of it, the amount, how much do you normally pay to shut women up? How, you know what I mean? Because
right.
that's that's where the law gets broken. The law gets broken on when you did it, why you did it, and how much. If it's more than usual, if it was particularly timed around the fact that
charges are about falsification of business records. It's not about
Right.
paying somebody off. It's about
Exactly.
paying them back and saying what it was for.
and his attorney stepped on that rake on national television by saying he does it all the time. Well, it better match dollar for dollar, month for month, timescape by timescape for all of these other women, or he's going to have to bring in his buddies who pay off women to be witnesses for him. Like, yeah, it's just things rich guys do. And if you think anybody else is throwing themselves in front of the bus for Trump, you're out of your mind. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, now with 100% more Johnny Million, who has a Twitch stream, by the way, you should subscribe to along with mine, called It's Johnny Million. And it is.
We can do a commercial after the break.
We can, absolutely. Ew. And by the way, the fuck is with the ads on Truth Social are gross.
Oh,
They're all about skin
diseases. Can I
diseases.
get an account still?
Oh yeah, of course. It's way easy now.
Oh,
I was on the wait list for a while. Roger Williams.
Somebody in chat, I missed their name, but they said the Truth Social is just like pure comedy.
Yeah, it's hideous. It's yeah. Oh, and that's the other thing. Do you have $10,000 of debt? Erase your debt. Click here. Patriot only debt relief. Or Trump coins
too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And they do not work.
And I'm here to tell you.
Right. I think that is the greatest the greatest scam in the world is dick pills, because anybody who complains
I bought this and it
didn't work. Nobody's ever gonna. Yeah, you're guaranteeing yourself great Yelp reviews.
I remember before Joe Rogan went off the reservation, he had a great bit about something like this is going to like be medical science that's true. You're not going to see it in the back of Rolling Stone. There's going to be it's going to be world news, and people are going to be carting their gigantic organs around in grocery carts, not being able to hear because all of the blood is going to their member.
Right.
He used to be funny.
We're back in 20.
Thank you.
Thank you.
8 years, 11 million pages, no errors, no affair, no misdemeanor, no crime, no case. Well, apparently not, because you're frigging... Oh, I have to scroll this down. Look at this. 8 years, 11 million pages, no errors, no affair, no misdemeanors, no crime. Yeah, you didn't... Nobody lists affairs in their taxes.
No.
That's part of the problem, dummy. So you listed it as a business expense.
Attention, stop what you're doing. Because we're coming back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Oh my God!
They went a little crazy with it, and I appreciate it.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Take it away, Johnny Million. What's happening?
You're going to get a lot of this.
There you go. I like it. That's a great tone, by the way. It sounds like the opening of a Giant song. Oh, there you go. And then, of course, the old police siren, the British police ambulance. Yeah.
Oh, and this is for Hal.
Yes. Yep, absolutely. I did that. I recorded that on the 01 record with a broken finger. We did Shock Me, and I recreated the solo from that. And my ring finger, you can see where the screw is in it. If I turn it sideways, I had
super broken.
I had to play with these three fingers. Yeah. And
not,
people at home don't even know. They don't even know which fingers I'm talking about, and that's the mystery of it. Okay, so back to...
That's not the desired
Johnny
combo.
Million. It's yes, twitch.tv/It's Johnny Million. Check it out. Subscribe. Also, subscribe to twitch.tv/HalSparks. You can vacillate, Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon Prime, you don't. That's not the word you were thinking it was. Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon Prime, it doesn't cost you a dime to subscribe to an account on Twitch every month. So you can vacillate between the two of us. You can go him 1 month, me 1 month, whatever. Just spread the love around. I love Johnny Million, and that's I'm sticking to it. All right, so
everybody's like, "Come on, Hal, give Johnny a chance." I'm like, "Give Johnny a chance? He's why I'm here."
Yeah, right. Aw.
He's my biggest fan.
It's true. It is. I am Johnny Million's biggest fan. This is true.
A lot of people are saying that you played the guitar with the shocker, and I think they're right.
Yes, they do. And I played Shock Me with the shocker.
With the shocker.
I'm the only person ever to do that in the history of Earth and ever. All right, so obviously Trump's Truth Social is all caps these days. It's it's almost like there's a lever at Mar-a-Lago that just goes caps lock on, and he goes, this is I'll read this without resorting to the screaming match that is going on there. They have closely studied 11 million pages of documents. They're in the process, by the way. Financial records and tax returns, and in parentheses, some gotten illegally, ! Which that's not true at all. Just isn't.
Why do they say they were gotten illegally?
I don't know. I don't think he knows. I think he just thinks the fact that they got them is illegal. Like it's unconstitutional or something. That's why he's just screaming illegally, whatever. Billions of dollars worth of deals and transactions. Yes, not your money, but sure. And mostly your dad's, but they've got nothing after 8 years of various politically motivated investigations, hoaxes, scams, and witch hunts. This must make me the most honest and honorable man anywhere in the world.
Oh my word.
Nobody in history has ever been through the scrutiny that I have. Make America great again! ! Now,
no one ever.
First of all, the 11 million, they are still sorting through the $11 million worth of documents and chasing down the other side of those agreements, because that is often where Trump's shenanigans seem to show up, in that his version of the paperwork is different from everybody else's. So
that's a bad sign.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good at all. And yes, and the deals he was involved in, increasingly they're billion-dollar deals, but other people's deals. He's been basically a human label maker, like a Brother P-Touch, since 1993, because they don't really build anything anymore. They just kind of strike these kind of, and by the way, they're not the only ones that do it. Like Hilton will do it sometimes. They'll take over a building, put a spit shine on it and call it a Hilton. That happens. But in these particular cases, almost all, if not all, of Trump's, new buildings since the early 90s that weren't started in process by his father were branding deals. That's it. They're just slather, which is why they started knocking the name off all over New York. And the only building still has Trump's name on it, I'm fairly certain, is Trump Tower at this point. And that's not long for this world.
And everything else with Trump's name on it goes out of business or has to pay settlements.
I mean, obviously, you and I have enjoyed many Trump steaks over the years. They make great shoe leather. If you're
both graduated with honors from Trump College.
That's
Trump
true.
University.
Yes. Yeah, Trump. Well, no, we didn't go to the university. You and I went to the Trump Vocational School, where we studied Trump welding, which involves mostly sawing your fingers off with an arc welder. So,
with the shocker.
But like his defense, and I think this is kind of important too, and it shouldn't be surprising to anybody, but his constant surprising about he's been exonerated. He is absolutely not. If the Republicans hadn't controlled the House or controlled the Senate, he would have been bounced. He would have been found guilty. He was impeached twice, and he would have been removed from office on the first one. The second one wouldn't have happened because he would have already been out of office, or would have been forced to resign because everybody around him was saying they're going to make you leave office and you won't be able to run again if they make you leave. But if you resign, you still could. There would be that powwow around him. And there was many powwows around him like that when he was talking about not leaving the White House, if you'll recall. Like his followers are going, yeah, you do that and you stay one day extra and you trespass in the White House, you're a loser forever. like the worst kind of loser. And he was like, okay. And he turned his tail and left like he always does. So the idea, though, that there was nothing to the Mueller investigation, which there absolutely was. I feel like we need to have a national Mueller she wrote tour where everybody who followed that very closely, goes on a big, Mueller report / all the secondary books written about it tour about the stuff that was left out or that was not allowed to be touched on an evidentiary level by Bill Barr, who effectively, in an indictment, Bill Barr made sure that Mueller could not look at Trump's finances during that time, and Trump's finances.
How many B's in that, Bill Barr?
That's BABAR. Well, that's 2. I know, but
2 B's,
not right next to each other. Arnold Babar. Anyway, so Bill Barr. Yeah, won't you come home, Bill Barr? So Bill Barr made sure that they couldn't look at Trump's finances, because if they did, that's the motive. And if you don't have motive means an opportunity, it's hard to make a case in a court. And so he was guaranteeing one of the 3 main pillars of an indictment were removed from Mueller's ability to investigate entirely. And then, even then, he had to run interference on it and write that 4-page summary to make it go, to memory hole the larger report, knowing that people would react to that and not to the report itself. And by the time by the time truth got its pants on, the lie would be halfway around the world. And that's what they were counting on. And in this particular instance, this is how Trump thinks everything works. So this whole 11 million pages, the fact that they got them in late December, early January, and that they have checked his work all this time, and that they're done meeting with Mazars, and that his CFO just happened to go to jail over the minor charges so that he wouldn't do a lot of time, which if I was a mafioso or if I was a RICO'd up criminal, businessman, I would be very concerned that my CFO went to jail for the Penny Ante stuff, because that means he made a deal to not go to jail on the big stuff because he's telling them that I did it. That would be the concern for me, or anybody with half a brain. And Trump has half a brain, so one would think he would be worried about this in particular. And it turns out that, of course, that before the indictment charges came, Weisselberg / his attorneys spoke to the grand jury again. So the 34 charges get really scary. And I think the most fascinating thing for me is that all the Republicans that are coming out and saying, this is the end of the rule of law, this is a penny ante charge, it's a misdemeanor that shouldn't even be a felony, the FEC wasn't interested, DC passed on it, blah, blah, blah. All those folks, I just kind of have a feeling that, and we can't know until the actual indictment comes out. And Tuesday, supposedly, he's supposed to surrender in New York and get fingerprinted and all that kind of stuff. And I will be on the air, oh, you bet, on my live stream. But when that happens, we'll know what all these charges are. And if there are indeed 30 plus charges, then all of these folks who have been saying this is nothing, they're just going after him, blah, 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 are setting themselves up, or better yet, letting Donald Trump set them up for another sucker's trap, another deadfall, another yard full of rakes that Donald Trump threw in front of his biggest supporters and said, it's no problem, go for a stroll. And every one of them, it's like they never learned their lesson. Lindsey Graham, we thought he had a moment where he's like, stick a fork in me, I'm done, right, about the insurrection, and then it came right back around. Kevin McCarthy showing right up at Mar-a-Lago. And again, Glenn Beck, literally, there's a video of him from 2016 talking about how terrible a human being Donald Trump is. A terrible person. And now he is openly... I bet they've
all been recorded saying something like that because it's the truth.
Exactly. But the truth is not profitable in MAGA world. And maggots, interestingly enough, for all this talk about him being representative of the white working class and the impoverished and the forgotten, the reality is his main audience is the doofuses at the Village. largely retirees or fairly well-off mid-level business people who need a hobby, quite frankly, and he became it. And they Winnebago across the country to see his ridiculous rallies, and they buy, every piece of merch he sells, or they get their own giant flags printed of him with Rambo's body, or calling themselves the Front Row Joes, and he's bleeding them dry. And again, I said yesterday that Donald Trump has more contempt for maggots than I do, by far, because I use that as a joking term. But Johnny, you know me, I'll talk friendly with almost anybody. I do suffer fools gladly. Maybe it's the comedian thing, I don't know, but I don't start like spit yelling in anybody's face.
You don't go out of the gate burning bridges.
I do not, and I try my best to let people know that I value my philosophy enough to present it in a civilized way, right? And so when I call them maggots, obviously I'm doing it tongue in cheek and it's a joke, and because I will talk to people on a balanced level. He, on the other hand, bailed out Steve Bannon, who was fleecing maggots out of their money for a fake build-the-wall scheme. That should tell you everything about Donald Trump's contempt for the kind of people that would think highly of him. Because, again, he is not a narcissist. Donald Trump is not an egomaniac who thinks he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. He's not. He's desperately in fear of people finding out he's a failure. His self-esteem is garbage. It's one of the reasons why he has contempt for any woman who's ever slept with him or even talked about doing it, because he's contemptuous of his own reflection.
Sure.
Because I got news
That's
for you.
probably the only thing I have in common with him, really.
Huh? Aw, that's sweet. And it's on the other hand, I've often said only a person with really low self-esteem thinks ill of calls women who sleep with them right away sluts, or or believes that they're of low value, because obviously look at you,
well-meaning women.
Right, you slept with me, and I know I'm a piece of crap.
Her? She's charitable to a fault. Why do you ask?
Yeah, right. Well, that's if you like yourself, but you're like, I'm definitely swinging out of my league. That's fine. Yes. I've definitely been there at 5'9", and during the 90s, a $130, fully clothes soaking wet. I was, and with long hair and a chipped tooth. I was, I was always ice skating uphill. But at a certain point, you're like, if you like yourself genuinely, and someone just sleeps with you immediately, you're like, I think that shows taste and breeding on their part, by God. Like, this, she can pick them. Boy, she knows a winner when she sees one. That's not how Trump feels. Huh? Well,
the chat says I'm echoing.
Well, that's weird. I don't see you echoing on my end.
Check.
Nope. We'll figure it out. We got to take a break. We'll fix it during the break if it's there.
I can reconnect.
Don't pretend to echo. That's rude. We'll be back.
I wasn't. I was saying check.
I wasn't.
Echo's gone now. Echo's gone. Not anymore.
Echo's gone. Oh my God. Oh my God. Just the idiocy of these people. The judge assigned to witch hunt case, a case that has never been charged before, hates me. His name is Juan Manuel Marchand, was handpicked by Bragg and the prosecutors, is the same person who railroaded my 75-year-old CFO on Weiselberg to take a plea deal, plead guilty, even if you're not, 90 days, fight us in court, 10 years, life in jail. He's strong-armed Allen, which a judge is not allowed to do, and treated my companies, which didn't plead, viciously, appealing. Oh, what a loser. All right. So, okay, we'll come back from that in a second. And by the way, hi, chat room. Love you guys. Seriously, I have to say, and I see all the people echoing, and there's an echo, there's a reverb, and there's an echo, and maybe it was from your, I don't think so. I don't hear it on my end, so that's very strange.
I did open an app that might have caused it. It could totally be my fault. It was a screen capture thing.
I see.
Coming back
Gotcha.
in 15.
Okay, thank you. Trump hates women. That's part of the reason he has so much contempt for women who sleep with him. Yeah, but I think it's the other way around, Slayer Chick. I really do. I think he's disgusted by himself and thinks that any woman who would
only on one
sleep
day
with him has to be a total
I'm gonna
pig.
have to jump on GarageBand and start sawing something together. This is the Hal Sparks Show. Wow. And the guitar note, and then progressive, and all. Yeah, it's going to be good.
Hey, Hal, did you mean something like this?
This is the Hal Sparks Show. Wow. And the guitar note, and then progressive, and all. Yeah, it's going to be good.
The Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Okay, and for the record, if I may, at my current count, I saw, I believe, 6 regular Trump fanboy pundits that wept yesterday at him being indicted.
Really?
Yeah. And it was for, that day and the day before, because I was doing clips from, of people's response to it. And there's, obviously we can't tell if Lindsey Graham was just glass-eyed and drunk. Don Jr. as well falls into that. I think he was more like, I don't know. There tends to be, I don't know. Johnny, you're our resident substance expert.
Yeah, sure.
There are some I hear that make your eyes bloodshot and watery. Is that a fact?
Alcohol.
Yeah, alcohol do that. Other
right
ones
out of
as
the
well.
Gate, yeah.
Yeah, there's some other ones.
Probably any barbiturate.
Right, a mixture of barbiturates and alcohol, would that do it?
Oh, easy. Yeah, that make you a little dopey too. And also, uppers are kind of diuretics, and they mess with your hydration.
Right, so that would make your blood vessels overreact. I see. Thank you so much for filling in the gaps in my knowledge on this particular instance. Everybody's like,
Justin,
weed, pot, benzos,
said coke, cocaine,
coke.
meth.
Right. Yeah. At some point, it's almost like he snorts it through his tear ducts. Is right. So, but I have seen, a good 6 of them that are, in genuine panic mode. However, there have been some on our side of the aisle that are concerned, apparently. Now, not as many as they said, has been very exaggerated. That there are people on the left, like, and who will they cite? Dershowitz. Some will even cite Geraldo Rivera as one of those people that thinks, I know, right, yeah.
That's a source?
True lefties, right? True, Bernie Brozol, right? That they, geez, they, that those folks are like, this is just bad. They shouldn't have done it. It's bad for America. It's bad for the rule of law. They're saying, basically parroting the exact same talking points because they think it's, this is somehow political persecution jumping the shark. It's just wrong and da-da-da-da. Now, for the record, it's a very small group, but I would argue, and I think quite well, if I might add, that if you don't prosecute your criminal leaders after the fact, that's when you become that's when the rule of law means nothing. That's when you have a 2-tier justice system.
That means
right.
That means you're turning a blind eye to legit corruption.
That's right. And the idea somehow that they have the nerve on the right to claim that it's clear we have a 2-tier justice system. No, it's clear that we have for quite some time. And at some point, that's going to have to come to an end. And it's going to come in a trickle because each case is different. And it's going to be, they're going to have to weigh in the case of, somebody like Blagojevich, they'll just kind of go, all right, this is going to be difficult to get records and it's nasty. And then it happens and we're done. But, in the case of Trump, his supporters might snap and do someone in. An innocent human being who, by the way, in most of the cases where these people act out, has nothing to do with the wrong they see. I mean, the prime example is the maggot that attacked the Cincinnati FBI office. Like like Cincinnati FBI agents drove to Florida to carry out the legal search and seizure warrant of documents Trump was not allowed to have, right? That somehow it was their fault, that this guy, and by the way, most of the time in these situations, like the dude who flew his like Piper Cub into the IRS office in Dallas years ago, and when people do this, when they do this, or the Timothy McVeighs of the world, oftentimes it is the secretaries, the receptionists, the custodial staff, the people who are in charge, they may not even be there, or their offices are far up inside the building, and yet these guys run into the lobby and start harming people, start killing them, or setting off a bomb, or throwing like whatever. Yeah, and ultimately end up killing somebody who's making less money than they do for a living. That's indicative of the sort of moral character of people who would pull this off. But one of the other reasons why I think a bunch of these folks were crying, and this kind of goes to that. Did you watch the Murdoch trial? Any of that stuff? The murder thing?
Yeah, that was a hot mess. Yeah, I watched a bunch of the.
That thing continues to unpack.
Listened to the podcasts and a little bit of the Netflix show. That was hard to take.
Right. Yeah, so one of the things that they point out, is that he was crying when he was talking to them, and he was crying, on the stand, and in those moments, and sometimes he wouldn't, but when he did, everybody's like, that somehow, and this is how actors get around this a lot. Everybody thinks all tears are real, and they are, and most of the time they are. But you can cry for a lot of reasons. You can cry because you're sad that your family has been killed. You can also cry because it's a shocking image that's replaying in your head that you just did, right? You did it. You snapped and you did it, and now you're running it in your
going on there.
It's shock and fear and a bunch of other. It's adrenaline. It's a bunch of things, and then it could also be that they're onto you and you might get caught. And you thought you were going to get away.
Just like Kyle Rittenhouse.
Right. Well, again, Kyle Rittenhouse at the time was a minor. I have a distinction about those kind of things, just for the record. So we'll put that aside.
Kyle really couldn't buy a tear. He did a lot of bluster, but nothing. A lot of face squeaking. Cry.
Yeah. But again, I put minors in a different category. At the time he was a minor, we're going to put that over there. The Murdoch thing is a better example, though, because multiple times he cried, and I think it was like a great example of somebody who knew that they were busted, crying and getting upset. There's another thing where some of the Trump fans, like Glenn Beck, and I really do think this was the root of Glenn Beck's tearing up and worry, and because he talked about it a little bit, and I think it was a dead giveaway, was that he fears another Jan 6 maggot uprising, and it will just put the final nail in the coffin of MAGA if it happens again. If they do anything like that, and by the way,
couldn't that happen if there's a whole DeSantis, you can't have him from Florida thing too?
No, because that's not going to happen. He's not. He's got to travel around the country, and he can't campaign. He doesn't have to be extradited. He's going to turn himself in. He's going to fly up there and surrender, and he's not going to hole up in Mar-a-Lago.
So it was just a fun thing for DeSantis to say out loud.
Yeah, DeSantis gets to point out, like, it's the same thing. DeSantis was messing with him. DeSantis brought up, well, I wouldn't know anything about paying off a porn star. Like, he threw that out there. These are digs. Don't think for a second that Trump, him saying he wouldn't extradite Trump or participate in it is him being friendly to Trump. It's pointing out that his one main rival for the Republican nomination is a wanted criminal. That's hilarious. Of course he's messing with him. That wasn't a compliment. That was a dig. We got to take a break. When we come back, Philip Ittner will be joining us from Ukraine. There's tons of stuff happening over there. Bakhmut still standing. It's almost like I told you so. We'll be back. He's usually on by this point, but he should pop in a second.
Thanks for letting me do the noodles, Hal.
Of course. I insist. Jenna Ellis told Trump to go to Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, Jenna Ellis is a moron who let Rudy Giuliani fart COVID on her. So I don't know. That's literally how she got COVID from from Rudy Giuliani, possibly from fecal spray.
Oh, jeez. Oh. Man, you just you triggered something.
Just the idea of it.
Fecal spray. No.
Yeah, it's rough.
Because I want to imagine it's a nice little pump thing, but no, no.
No, you can't imagine it any other way. Anal sneeze. Oh, God. And
Is that like a butt burp?
Yeah, you got to know. You know Rudy Giuliani always farts when he sneezes. You have to. Always. Always and every time. There's just no way. Oh, there he is. Okay, we got Phil's coming in. Hopefully, I can maintain a steady link coming in. Give me 1 second, and I'll roll him in with us. And on that note, I'm glad we got that out of our system before Phil got in here, so he didn't have to hear it.
Yeah, he'd be so disappointed.
He'd do that whole "I work with children" thing.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I mean,
hold on. You hear us?
There we go.
Check. Check. He's frozen, but it'll start moving in a second. I think maybe, possibly, could be.
There we go.
Yes. Hey, there we go. Excellent. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Phil Pittner
Phil.
joining us live from Kiev, and Johnny Million on the other side. There you go. And is your website up yet, Phil?
Not quite yet. Nope, not
Okay.
quite yet.
All right.
Soon, I hope.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. I'm still going to have to hop out and hop back in. Sorry about that.
That's okay. All right. Well, I can fix it. We'll get him back in a second. I love all technical problems that are not my fault.
Right?
I'm a huge fan. This just in, Trump is still a fucking idiot. I agree. Halloween Sparks. I'm sorry.
There we go.
Hey,
much
good.
better.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. No problem. Let me grab. I gotta swap links real quick, and then we'll do this. Hopefully, it'll pop back in. Hopefully, here we go. Give me 1 second. Come here, you. Come on. All right. Try again. I don't know why. Oh, there he is. Okay, sorry. It was I just jumped the gun. There he is. Hurrah! Oh, now I don't hear you. Now we lost your audio. Yep. We don't hear you all of a sudden.
Everybody in the chat saying Phil's a bit loud. They're all behind the times.
Yes, they are right. Believe me, we fixed that. There you go. Check. Phil, we do not hear you. Swapping your audio for some better source, perhaps. Oh, and he went away.
At first they said indoor voice Phil, and now they're yelling outdoor voice Phil.
Right, exactly. Somebody called the Royal Tech Cat. Okay, we'll pop back in, see if he... Check.
Ah,
there he is.
there we go.
I like the combination of audio and video. It's very helpful.
Yes.
Good stuff. There we go. And...
Okay, I think we got all the grimmins out.
Yep, we did. I think so. And then check. And then, Johnny, can you check for me?
Yep.
Checking 1, 2. Check 1, 2.
I'm going to bring you up on my end a little bit.
Here you go.
There you go. Check. Hey. Okay. And then we should be good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we got it. We got it worked out, chat room. Thank you very much. Excellent. And by the way, thank you guys for the super chats today. Really appreciate it. It's
yeah, you're unreal.
Yeah, we love you. Thank you. And thanks for the bits as well, guys. On all the folks on Twitch, it's a much it's a smaller, more consistent thing when you guys are throwing bits our way, and we appreciate it. I just want to remind everybody it really helps. And of course, Facebook, Meta.
I love the Twitch bits.
Yeah, they're good. Echo on Phil now.
They pay for my guitar strings.
Why would there be
Echo on me?
It might.
There was.
We're back in
I
20.
think it's gone.
Okay, good. All right. Okay.
I think it's gone. There was one. I think there was one at the very start. We're good.
Gotcha.
And I can hear Chicago as well. Hello, Chicago.
Okay, excellent. All right, let me grab something here.
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I've had people walk out of me before, but not when I was being so charming.
Video streaming at halsparks.com.
I don't care for you if the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Puss-faced little pimp stick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
So there's a lot going on in the Ukraine conflict right now, and I have to say we have too much to dig into. By the way, get your questions ready for Philip Ittner. He's joining us right now from Kiev, and Johnny Million will be farming those in our chat room at infotainmentwars.com or twitch.tv/Hal Sparks, or on our Facebook page, the Hal Sparks page, or even on, I suppose you could tweet him, but I don't know if you have that window open. That's a lot. But welcome, Philip. By the way, catch us up on what you're, we spoke on Wednesday on my live stream, but a lot has gone on over the last week specifically. Catch us up on what you think are the big, the big three movements this week, if you have them.
The big stuff. I would say Finland is in there. We could talk about that in greater depth. The arrest of the Wall Street Journal reporter, also internally in Russia, that's worth discussing. Let's see. On the battlefield, Bakhmut still stands. We're not 100% sure where that is going. And as I reported over a month ago when I was actually there, it's still kind of very much on a knife's edge. Don't know if it's going to fall and they will have to fall back to defensive lines, or whether or not there'll be some sort of chink in the Russians' armor that the Ukrainians can exploit. Avdiivka, which is another frontier town which is being fought over, that remains mostly in Ukrainian hands, although there's intensified fighting there and some reports of some Russian advancement there. Vuhledar, which is the site of a massive tank attack, is still in the mix as well. So there's a couple of areas out in the Donbass where there's still fighting, but far from any kind of Russian breakthrough. This is said to be the Russian offensive. We do know that the Ukrainians are setting up their offensive. We know that the Ministry of Defense, Reznikov, here in Ukraine, has said he anticipates launching the Ukrainian counteroffensive in April or May. So look for, I would guess, mid-April to mid-April to mid-May would be my guess if I were to put money on it. Lots more equipment coming in. Equipment that was not expected has showed up here. JDAMs are here, which are kind of these things you can put on dumb missiles to make them smart. There are infantry fighting vehicles that were not expected that have flooded in from Germany. More tanks are expected from Germany. The Patriot missile guys have been fully trained, but the system isn't here yet. So that's the nuts and bolts on the ground. Then there's lots of peripheral stuff.
Yeah.
So
By the way,
you want to talk about?
Yeah. The U.S. by the way agreed to sell Poland 24 F-22s to replace fighters that they're sending to Ukraine for $1. We sold them to them for $1. 24 of them for $1. It's the Duke's method of payment from Trading Places. But there are a couple of stories, and again, it was the Dukes. So the tank battle that you were talking about in Vuhledar, which is currently, as far as I can see, in the tanky world and in the mill blog, like the Russian mill blog crowd, is the single greatest point of embarrassment for them right now. That seems Vuhledar is their oh crap moment. And because of its strategic importance is about the same as Bakhmut to some degree, I would guess. But there were literally at one point there was an entire column of and I think I can hold on. I'm going to bring it up real quick on here just to show here. There's an entire column of Russian tanks that were wiped out in one fell swoop just by artillery and HIMARS. Like I want to say like 20 of them. And not since the idiocy of their combat lines.
Largest tank battle on the European continent since Second World War, and the Russians just were
obliterated. Yes,
just wildly outclassed.
Which is madness, especially because we're not even talking about where Bradleys have come into this. This is just the fighting force of the Ukrainians and the blatant idiocy of the military planners on Russia's side, I guess, because it's if you watch it from the air,
well, we talked about this,
it looks like a slow motion car accident.
Yeah.
Like,
we've talked about this, Alan, and it's the Russian tactics. Well, they claim that they do what is called combined arms tactics, which is basically you have an infantry fighting vehicle, you have an armored element like a tank, you have artillery, and you have support from the sky. All of these things work in conjunction. This is the NATO tactic. This is NATO doctrine. And it is imminently more effective than just what the Russians do, which is flood a zone with artillery and then send in either your waves of conscripted infantry or tanks, or kind of working in conjunction, but dismounted infantry. It's just they're not very good at war. The Russians, despite we like to talk about the Russians having won the Second World War. Well, a lot of things happened to make the USSR, not the Russians, the USSR, win the Second World War. They did not do it on their own. When they're on their own, they're not a very impressive fighting force, and we are seeing it. And you're right. This is before the Leopards or Leopards, if you want to pronounce it in the German, or the Challengers, or the Strikers, or the Bradleys, or everything
none of that
else
has gotten
that we are flooding into this area. They haven't even gotten there yet. And the Ukrainians are just, because they're utilizing tactics that are smarter than what the Russians are doing. The Russians see everything as a nail and they're a hammer, and it costs them dearly, and not only in terms of life, but not only in terms of treasure, but they're going to lose this war, and it's going to be a humiliation because they don't know how to fight.
Yeah,
it's a really bold statement to make, but I'm sorry, but it's true. They're not. I saw them in Georgia. I saw them fight in Georgia in 2008, and I wasn't impressed then. I saw the after effect of their fighting in Syria, and I wasn't impressed then. And this is just humiliation. The Ukrainians are teaching the Russians how to actually fight a war, and they haven't even gotten all the good equipment yet. So, Volodar is bad.
Yeah. There are a couple of major things that happened. Like the UK intelligence is saying that the Russian offensive is effectively over. It's spent, and they lost. Not only did they not gain what they were intending on gaining, which was, I guess, everything. They didn't gain anything, but they also lost so much doing it that it was like the brutal futility of it is turning against them on a propagandistic, on an internal level in the actual country. Like, this is a growing embarrassment across the board. Now, the last time we talked, there was this mention that Russia was going to start placing nukes, tactical nukes, in Belarus, and that and this was right about the time when supposedly the Chinese had just met with them and built this. They're being pushed together into each other's arms, and it's a big mistake, and their alliance is going to be terrible. At the UN Security Council, the Chinese spokesperson said they are specifically against putting tactical nukes in Belarus. They called it the sword of Damocles. They do not want it to happen, and so the chances are that if Russia continues with it, it will lose what minimal support, the hunting rifles that they were getting from China. You're right. There you go. And then if if they don't go ahead with it, it's very obvious that they are falling behind. China pulls the strings. That's enormous for them to bother to even say that, to move on that part of it. And then I've got some Putin stuff as well too.
That little tickles back.
Yes.
And it doesn't change the metrics in the region. Nothing changes with them putting nukes in Belarus. It's just a belligerent move.
Right.
It changes maybe 30 seconds of flight time or something like that.
Right.
It's ridiculous. But you're right. To see the Chinese chastising them, and if Russia doesn't, then it shows who pulls the marionette strings, and that will not sit well.
No,
with the Russian public, they hate China about as much as they hate us.
So we're getting a return also of the Putin is on his way out storylines, where he definitely had that surgery or whatever he had last year, where he was really puffy and he was definitely on steroids, and then he dropped weight again, and some of the puffiness went away, and then he was slurring his speech, but he was holding a champagne glass, or he was like, oh, he's just got a little tipsy, and started chit-chatting, when in reality, it's almost like one of those situations where your PR person puts a drink in your hand to explain the slurring. But this is the sources on these. This is from the Mirror, but and again, the Mirror I think is a Rupert Murdoch owned paper. Does he? I can't remember. He owns one of those over there, but they just snatched up the Wall Street Journal guy. Yeah,
I don't think the Mirror. Don't hold me to that. But anyhow, go ahead.
But let's take a break, and when we come back, I want to talk about the sort of Marge Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz crowd being against the Ukraine war and being really belligerent about it, while Rupert Murdoch has just had one of his reporters captured and accused of espionage in Russia, and how that is going to change the metric in Fox world about this conversation going forward, or if they even address it at all, which in and of itself would be an act of violence against their fellow reporters and journalists under the Murdoch empire. We'll be back right after this. It's Hal Sparks, and it's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, now with 100% more Johnny Million, and of course, Philip Bittner, 1L, 2 T's. Philip Bittner, follow him on Twitter. We'll be back. So, yeah, this is from Valerie Solovey in the Mirror. I'll run you down with what
Mirror is not the Mirror is not a Murdoch. It's not
gotcha.
Murdoch.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this is not just sour grapes then, because I would give it if it was a Murdoch paper, I would almost automatically assume a bit of more grain of salt about it than in this case. That said, there may be some circling of the wagons in the British media, because this is a big deal. But under the stimulants, the director's eyes shine, but the brain can't keep up with the tongue. Russian dictator Vladimir Putin is under the influence of hard drugs. He uses very strong stimulants due to deteriorating health. This was stated by a Russian political scientist, a former professor at the Moscow Institute of International Relations, which trains intelligence officers and diplomats, Valery Solovey, who writes the Mirror. According to him, the dictator is being treated for cancer and neurological diseases. Putin is rapidly losing weight, and the low effectiveness of the treatment makes him feel very upset and completely depressed. In particular, Putin looked very bad at a meeting with Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov. That was a couple weeks ago. He did look awful in that. That is true. In the video from the meeting, a pale Putin was holding the edge of the table with his hands as hard as he could. He goes, this is the quote from him. Look, if you see how the real Putin walks, you will notice that his legs have become more like matches. He has lost a lot of weight, and double of his body is distinguished by the angularity of his face. This is due to the fact that the double has problems with his kidneys, said Nightingale, adding that the medical staff hides Putin's weight loss with cotton pads. Nightingale also claims that Putin uses drugs in order to not look completely frail and sickly. When he speaks in public, as young people say, fast, very strong stimulants. He takes fast. That doctors prepared him for the meeting with Xi Jinping for 2 or 3 days. He had to rest, take certain medications in order to keep 3 or 4 hours of negotiations and look convincing. But Xi Jinping cannot be deceived, Nightingale said. According to him, Chinese and Israeli doctors are also helping Putin. I mean, it reeks of it I mean, it's not surprising, and that kind of like awful doesn't go away that quickly. Like he looked better all of a sudden, and everybody's like, "Well, it's fine then. It's all gone." I don't know. I don't think you recover. 20. Thank you. I don't think you recover that quickly from that kind of illness without some,
And you can go into remission.
Right. Yeah. So there we go. And then when we come back, we'll talk about that too.
Mm-hmm. Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So in the last couple of weeks, Vladimir Putin has been, a warrant has been issued by the International Criminal Court for war crimes because he's abducting children from Ukraine and keeping them, I guess, to reseed the population or hold them for ransom or to just hold them as hostages to make sure people in the Donbass don't misbehave or something. But either way, that was the tipping point in the war crimes world as far as, world leaders do awful stuff all the time when it comes to war, but that's apparently the line where enough was enough. And that transition in of itself lost him some friends on the world stage, and also made China take a half a step back. And that got followed again by the fact that after the meeting that Putin had with Xi Jinping, Wagner Mercs killed Chinese mine workers in Cameroon, and the Chinese started renaming Russian areas that they lost during the Sino-Russian War of, I think, 1902, 1905, something like that, in that period, back to their Chinese names, which is not something you do when you're playing nice. So the question, Philip Ittner, that I have is that, is the military loss, is that playing out maybe perhaps in Putin's health and the like, and the word is that he is deteriorating again rapidly, that the temporary fix they threw into him isn't a lasting solution, and it doesn't seem like he's thinking straight.
Well, I'm always cautious when I talk about Putin's health, and sure. I'm cautious when I talk about the body doubles that he's widely reported to employ. Mm-hmm. I think there's something to it, but I don't know to what degree. And some people think, every second or third appearance is a body double, and he's got this, he's got, dozens of these guys. It's not that extensive, I don't think. Right. I think he uses them, but I don't think it's quite to the extent that we sometimes would like to think. As to his health, another topic that I am very cautious about, because clearly there was something wrong with the man. I think that's unavoidable. But how bad is it? I don't know. I think it's bad. I think there's something going on. And I think it's life-threatening, but I don't know exactly what it is, and I don't know what period, and so I don't like to speculate. As to his mental status, again, a topic I don't like to speculate on, but an educated guess would be, of course he's being affected. He's losing this war, and it is the worst war that he could possibly lose. If he were to get away, I've spoken about this in one of my blogs, is that the loss of Afghanistan, the war in Afghanistan, is oftentimes thought to have contributed to the demise of the Soviet Union. That was a war that went over 10 years and was fought in a land very far away from the command, the population centers of Russia, which really influence things, and that is, in essence, St. Petersburg and Moscow. Afghanistan was far away, over 10 years, over 10 years, and still it was thought to contribute to the fall of the Soviet Union. Right. This war has been fought over a little more than a year, and has cost 10 times the amount of casualties that the Afghan war did for the entire Soviet Union, not just Russia. And it is Ukraine, which is intrinsic to the Russian sense of self, because it is their colonial. I said it before, it's the crown jewel in their colonial crown. And so all of these things make losing this war absolutely devastating for Putin. And Putin knows. Putin is going to lose this war, and then he is going to lose his power. And potentially lose his life because that's how Russia rolls.
Right.
So
today is the day. By the way,
he must be having some sleepless nights.
Yeah, today is the day that his latest decree goes into effect for 147,000 new conscripts. When the 300,000 they were allegedly going to draw up, which came up dry, I think they ended up short of that. They ended up with about 150K back then. They didn't get to the 300 number, I don't think, ever. But they're calling up 100. I don't know why that number in particular, 147,000. I think they're trying to make it look strategic as opposed to just blatant. Because if you just call up like 300K again, it sounds like you're just throwing, it's just you're looking to fill coffins, which I think is largely what they are doing. But 147,000 sounds like you're replacing people specifically doing specific things or building up areas that need it or something, I guess. But it just seems like madness. But that goes into effect today. He signed that decree, like a couple of weeks ago, I think. And it starts today. They start conscripting 18 to 25-year-olds, or 27-year-olds, I think it is, which is, again, another odd number for their range. I don't know. Is it Cyrillic numbers? Do they just make a different choice? It's like a sexagesimal system versus decimal. I don't quite know. But it's it seems like a vain attempt to try and fill some gaps in there, but everybody's just looking at it as just another a light order of cannon fodder.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and guys of that age are doing everything that they possibly can to avoid getting drawn up, and I've heard stories of. So a lot of them in Russia, there's an app that you can use to like pay your gas or your water bill, which is all kind of
run on Chinese tech. By the way, run on Chinese tech. By the way, it's the same architecture that WeChat runs on, and it's how they track you.
Right. So they're desperately trying to get rid of these apps. The Russian government is trying to make it very difficult. You actually physically have to go down to the the mayor's office or whatever it is to get it removed. And there just happens to be a recruiter standing right next to you.
What are the
odds?
All
of this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Let's. There's. I think we already have one question that came from a super chat, though, and I want to get it before we go to the break. We got a couple of minutes, so I want to do that.
Sure.
Johnny, do you see that one? From Mandy?
Super chat one? Yeah, from Mandy?
Yeah.
Mandy Mateer asks, how do you think the destruction of the Tor M2 has affected Putin and Russian military leadership?
The Tor M2?
That's the air defense platform that Ukraine hit. Yes.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's an expensive piece of kit. They're not going to be able to replace it. That's precision. That's precision bombing by the Ukrainians. So that's impressive there as well. But the fact that they will not be able to track, because so the Tor M2, if we're talking about the same system as the one that the Ukrainians hit, that is a air defense radar, and it's quick reaction to indirect fire. So mortars, artillery, that kind of thing. And so the Russians would be able to respond to Ukrainian artillery strikes or mortar strikes, and that will depreciate their ability to do that. And that's a big deal. It's an expensive piece of kit. They will not be able to replace it. It's when they get more kit, the Ukrainians, that they can fire on Russian positions without any kind of response, it's just going to improve their ability to do so. I mean, and also it depreciates the Russians' ability to respond because, and this ties into their doctrine issue, is that the Ukrainians have a very sophisticated artillery response system. They have a counter battery system that is really good. It was described to me by a military expert here in Ukraine as kind of like a Uber for artillery. They kind of like have a system where it's like, who can take it? Okay, quick response. The Russians don't do the same thing. They have a very different structure when it comes to their artillery and their counter battery capacity. So taking out that Tor is gonna make it worse, because what they do is it goes back to a central command. Instead of like the Uber system that the Ukrainians have, the Russians have a very antiquated doctrine, which is you track the incoming indirect fire, mortar or artillery. Then that gets sent to a command center, and then the command center designates what counter battery to respond to. If you don't have the Tor, you don't have that that initial thing that goes to the brain, and then the brain sends it back down the brainstem, if you follow my analogy.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's a great question. It's a great question, and I think I mean it's just one system, but there aren't a lot of these things, and they're very expensive, and they're irreplaceable for the Russians.
Record.
Not only is it a loss. Not only is a loss of hardware, which it is, irreplaceable, but it's also, because of the structure and the doctrine of the Russian military, it's going to be very bad for their capacity to return fire just when we're about to launch a counteroffensive.
That's right. Yeah, and it's part of why they did it. The timing of it
really bad, because I'm on the side of the Ukraine.
It's pretty terrible for them. I like to say for the record that by the way, 4 of them have been destroyed in March alone. 4 of these Tors have been destroyed by the Ukrainians. One particularly was hit with a kamikaze drone, and that was the embarrassing one because their air defense system was hit from the air. The other thing too is that 2 Arctic versions of this that the Russians had repurposed down to use there, which are very hard to come by. They only have, like, I think 6 of them in total for the entire top part of their defense system, just in case. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that if the Chinese or the U.S. decide to use icebreakers and come after them in their paranoid fantasy, they would need. And they've removed them and brought them down to Ukraine, and the 2 they sent were destroyed in February. The Ukrainians have destroyed 6 of these Tor systems in one a week for 6 weeks, basically on a timescale right before the spring offensive. This is enormous. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Park Radio program.
It's noting that the Ukrainians are targeting.
Yep. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Friday they got another one. And
that's one of the video that I thought that's what she was referring to, but
yes. They were transporting it at the time.
There have been several of them that got hit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were transporting this one at the time. It was a moving target as well. So their air defense system was hit as a moving target by the Ukrainians with a kamikaze drone. It's like,
and I think it was the kamikaze drone, was it? Yeah,
yes.
I mean
it's the most embarrassing way this can happen because
they're getting ready for a counteroffensive.
Yes,
they're getting ready.
Yeah.
Is my echo still bad?
Nope, I don't think so.
It comes and goes.
Okay.
It's so weird because I don't hear it at all. So it's something else that's happening. Yeah, I just hear, a little bit of like sonic rumble. Maybe it's in the left, and my other ear bud died for a little while. So I'll see if it's wake back up. Maybe I can.
We're back at 20.
Hunt it down. Yeah, no, I just hear, let's see.
This is Damian Perdue of Think Theory Radio, Saturdays at 6 p.m. You're listening to Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I thought there was going to be like a new one every break. I was so excited.
You want more, Hal? We'll give you more. Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820. Hoo-yah!
So there's a lot of questions. I have a bunch, but I want to defer to the ones that are in the chat room that we've got. Johnny Million has been farming them for us lovingly. And what do we have first off out of the gate, Johnny?
Are from Jonathan Black. I've got, what is the best pet rescue organization in Ukraine? We want to help. Thanks.
Oh boy, the best pet rescue.
We dealt with this once
I
before.
had
Somebody
a
asked this once
friend
before.
who did that.
Yeah, but the Humane Society is where to go to ask. The HSUS website has, I want to say they have a special thing for like Ukrainian pets and displaced. They have like refugee animals and that kind of stuff is another part of what they do. That's probably that's been establishing over time. I don't want to snipe that answer, but having worked with the Humane Society for a long time, I just want to put 2 cents in to go to their website and look there because they'll be on top of it on insofar as an internationally recognized charity to deal with animals and stuff. And as people come back, it's better and better. But if you want one of the pets from there, that's going to be a tooth pull, but it can happen. I know it. You know, you might have to go to Poland to pick it up, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head. I think you're probably right. Go with the Humane Society.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they'll list them. I'll see if I can hunt down the specific one we were talking about when this came up before, like a few months ago, and I'll post it on my Twitter so you guys can see it there. Let's grab another one.
This question is for both of you from Flint Reed. Can we get your thoughts on DeSantis's private army ambitions?
Yeah, at one point, so if you don't know Phil, he was at one point trying to put together this like version of the National Guard in Florida that would only answer to the governor and could not be called up by the federal government, which is stupid and will never happen. And so but if it were to happen, we would live in a stupid, never happen version of reality. So, but I will say that it's indicative more than anything of the macho BS you can expect from, wannabe Trumpers. And also, the type of people who like people like Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping and like that idea. They like the idea that you could somehow have your own little magical fighting force just for you that separates you from the rest of the government while you still benefit from being attached to the government. If you need your hurricane relief, oh, absolutely. Come knocking at our door. But the second you're a neighboring community, Georgia or South Carolina or Mississippi, Louisiana, the minute they need help, then I guess the hell with them and you'll keep your National Guard at home. It's just stupid. Other than that,
I mean, if Eric Prince can do it with Blackwater, I doubt that DeSantis.
Right.
But it does make me think of Prigozhin, and there's a great Prigozhin story, by the way, that I only just saw today.
Mm-hmm.
So you know how Prigozhin and the Wagner Group have been like recruiting from prisons, right? Well, some of those contracts have come to a conclusion, and the prisoners who have been released are getting put back out into common society. And there's this town called Novi. What is it? I wrote it down here because I wanted to talk about it. Novi Barat.
Mm-hmm.
If I've got Novi Barak, Mojibit, maybe. So this guy was released from the Wagner Group, who was a criminal, and he was drunkenly walking around town, apparently with an axe and a pitchfork, and reportedly may have killed a woman.
I'm listening.
Just like, I'm back from the front, and I'm going to kill everybody. And the citizens of this town were like, could you arrest him again and send him back to Ukraine so that maybe he will die and not come back next thing? But this is the ramifications of this kind of stuff that like Prigozhin and Russia is engaging in. It never ends well. So
no, it doesn't. The irony that they mock what they think is the left wing in the United States as being weak and especially not tough on crime and that kind of stuff, and that we're going to defund the police and empty all the prisons and yada yada yada, and yet Vladimir Putin's a real leader. He's a tough guy or whatever, and ultimately comes up with a military plan that involves releasing serial rapists and murderers back into society. And by the way, cut loose. These folks they don't have to go to a halfway house and transition back to society. They just get it like, I don't know, go back to the old neighborhood. I don't know, find a place to rent. Buy. That's amazing to me. That and Trump still talks about Putin and Xi as if they're at the top of their game, right? And this is the whole thing. And one of the things they do is how like anti-LGBT they are, for example, and that that's a big like rally cry, and that we're going to defund the police and empty all the prisons and criminals will be run there. We're not charging crime, and Democrat-run cities are crime-ridden and blah blah blah. And if only we had a masterful, powerful, studly leader like Vladimir Putin, who would come up with the idea of scooping up everyone on death row, handing them a rifle, sending them to another country to kill people for 6 months, and then if they survive the 6 months, letting them live down the block from you without so much as a national predator database list or something, where you can at least check the web and see, how many of these murderous psychopaths actually came home this week. It's nuts. Anyways, other than that, I have no opinion. Yeah. But let's grab another question. Yeah.
All right, and next, I've got Brad Enterval just wants to say, please let Phil know that we appreciate his selfless reporting of all this horrible war that people are sometimes forgetting about.
Agreed. Yeah, we appreciate the perspective and the personal touch, the actual the soul level reporting.
Well, I am working on improving it. I'm setting up a website, and I am currently interviewing for an assistant and a translator who can maybe help me improve my output level. So I appreciate it, and I hope to provide more. It's going to get busy here, guys.
Was there an
age range in hair color this summer is going to be You're a child. You're a child.
Yeah, that's right.
I can't believe I still work with you people.
Very practical.
I don't get this on Tom Hartman's show.
You definitely don't. No. By the way, the guy you were talking about, the Russian that was with the axe and the pitchfork, that was his name was Ivan Rosamachin. Right, that's how you pronounce it. And the guy, he was walking down the street saying, "I'm going to kill everybody." The woman he killed was his mom.
Oh, wow.
He came home from serving after 6 months. He'd been in prison for 3 years. He murdered his mother and then was wandering around the streets with a pitchfork and an axe, yelling, "I'm going to kill everyone."
Well, press officer so clearly a very healthy, functioning country.
Yes. Yes. Only. And by the way, it says Prigozhin says he's the exception to the rule because only 0.31% of the recruited prisoners would have committed crimes again. That's because that's the survival rate, dum dum. Oh boy. 0.31%. Right. Absolutely. Anyway, so yeah, that guy killed his mother and then was walking down the street with an axe and a pitchfork. Sweet guy. And that's who, by the way, they sent into a war zone.
Healthy country. Really?
Let's see. We got a couple more minutes before we need to do the next break. Johnny, we got another one?
Yeah, Miss P-Dubs wants to know what Phil thinks about Russia taking the American journalist hostage, or i.e. the arrest.
We need to talk about that. The Wall Street journalist.
We need to talk about that. The Wall Street journalist, Evan Gershkovich, which sounds like a Polish name to me.
Right.
Wall Street Journal, as Hal, you pointed out, and I hadn't even thought about it, but you're absolutely right. That is a Rupert Murdoch-owned publication. We, in the 90s, when I was in Russia, in the press corps, we always had a thing amongst ourselves of, if they start taking one of us, we all have to bandy together. And indeed, there has been a letter sent to Putin, to the Kremlin, by the International Press Corps saying this crosses the line. An attack on one of us is an attack on all of us. He was out in Ekaterinburg apparently doing an article about the Wagner Group, and he was arrested. He's I believe he's a first generation or second generation Russian immigrant to the States. Pardon me. And he, more likely than not, there is nothing to his case. He is pled not guilty, which is useless in a Russian judicial system because it doesn't matter. The Russian judicial system is only used as an organ of the state, so they will do with him as they please. This is clearly a shot across the bow to the International Press Corps. Don't write too much stuff. There's been some really depressing stories coming out of Russia. The little girl, the 13-year-old girl whose father is being sent to prison because she wrote a Crayola, a crayon drawing that was sympathetic to the Ukrainians. So the state bundled him up.
He fled to Belarus and was captured there and returned. Gersovich, by the way, is the child of Soviet-born Jews who moved to the United States, which is kind of crucial considering the whole Nazi claim that they still make. But anyway, sorry, continue.
Well, there was a whole period of not to go into a history lesson, but at the end of the Soviet Union, they let a lot of Jewish people go. You could immigrate out of the Soviet Union. Most went to Israel, but a lot actually did go to the United States. But regardless, I mean, I got a buddy of mine who is still in the press corps in Moscow, and I deeply respect Steve Rosenberg with the BBC, who, by the way, follow him. He is from that side of the Iron Curtain, which is rescinded. He is still in Moscow, and he has forgotten more about Russia than I will ever learn. Steve is one of the best. And I worry about his safety because he's a straight shooter, but that means warts and all. And the Kremlin doesn't like that kind of stuff. So I worry about it. And then you see now the State Department saying, look, Americans, if you don't have to absolutely be there, get out. And then there's the argument, did they take him because of Gaynor? And are they setting this up for another prisoner exchange? I don't think that's true because I don't know who we still have in America that we could exchange for the Wall Street Journal report for Evan. But it's bad. It's really bad.
It's in this particular instance, a lot of people believe that it's possible that they snatched him up as basically a checkers piece. It really simple baseline, just like and because he's linked to the Murdoch empire. It's a lot more squirrely in the negotiations for both the Biden administration and for the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world, who are against Ukraine in this process. Than if he grabbed somebody from
one last quick thing.
One of the New York Times.
One last quick thing about Evan. Not that if you want to talk at depth about, but the other thing is, I considered yesterday that it might be in the Kremlin's mind, Putin in particular, that they know that the fraying at the edges of Russian society is going to intensify. And they do not want the message that a straight shooting journalist or somebody from the International Press Corps would report, so that because look, there are going to be news organizations that pull their personnel out of Russia because of this, whether it's behind the lines, producers, cameramen. If you are the Associated Press right now, and you have a foreign national inside Moscow. And you have to pay his insurance, frankly, when it comes right down to it. You're seriously considering getting out of there because if they do start rounding up journalists in large numbers, as Russia starts to disintegrate, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad for them. So they're going to start pulling people out. But I am deeply concerned that the Kremlin is doing this because they know that is about to hit the fan. And they do not
agreed.
And they do
let's take a break. We got to take a break.
International press.
Right. We got to take a break. I would agree because there's also another detail that points in that direction, and to what you're saying, that I think gives more clues to that might indeed be what's going on. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Follow Philip Ittner on Twitter, and of course his blog on YouTube, and then of course Johnny Million. It's Johnny Million on Twitch.tv. We'll be back. I want to
screaming about the echo.
It's weird. Because I don't hear it, so I don't know where it's coming from.
I kind of hear it, but it comes and goes. Well, see, there it is right now. Yeah, I don't know.
Hold on 1 second. Let me see if I can readjust. Check for me.
Check 1, 2.
Check.
There you go. How about now?
It's gone now for me.
Check 2.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Is that better? Check.
I'm fine now.
Does that do it? Okay, I'm just rerouting stuff through there out of the browser so that it maybe helps. Sorry about that.
Okay.
It's the only thing I can think of.
People blame it on when Phil moves.
I still can't
Don't move, Phil.
When I move, I won't move. Okay.
It's the overall volume of things. It's just how it
Don't
works.
breathe. Are you breathing?
Never breathe. Okay, I think I know what caused it. All right, I
can hear a little bit of it still.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
No.
New. Let's see. Let's go to here and here. How about now?
How about
That's
now?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, it's fine.
Cool. All right.
Well,
It'll take a second. It might catch up or something, but it should be right. You shouldn't.
I think it comes and goes. I think they're absolutely right.
Okay,
I don't know what the deal
then
is.
it's out of my hands.
I need to use earphones because my hearing is so rubbish.
Understood. So
coming back in 20.
Probably from all the explosions.
Could be. Hold on, I have to find this article real quick about China tech VP.
So I've got my happy ending story if you want one.
Excellent. Yeah.
I am happy, you are happy. Let us be happy together, whether the weather is cloudy or sunny. I will always be your funny honey bunny. I am lucky, you are lucky. Let us get lucky together, whether the weather is cloudy or breezy. I'll be there to say, hey, come on, let's take it easy. Cause isn't it nice to have the friends that you do? And isn't it nice that the sky is so blue? And isn't it nice to say I love you, chugga chugga choo choo, woo woo. I am smiling, you are smiling. Let us smile together, whether the weather is cloudy or stormy. I will still be there in the morning. I'll be right by your side in the morning. I'll make you breakfast in the morning. I hope that you like cereal.
If that isn't like the greatest song, I must say. I feel good.
I must say.
It's just, it makes me, nothing could make me happier, and yet I can be. Welcome back to the show. Philip Bittner is still with us. Johnny Million is still with us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show if you can. Super chats really help out. If you're on the YouTubes, if you want to support the show long form, you can go to patreon.com/HalSparks. It's the first of the month, so it's a good time to do it, I suppose. And then we were just talking before the break. Philip was bringing up the fact that Russia is starting this kind of crackdown around journalism, basically to try and, seal up the messaging in case things start to hit the fan. You don't want journalists that tell the truth, too many of them out there speaking freely right when it happens. If it could collapse tomorrow, they would rather keep the messaging as tight as possible, right, Phil? Is that where you're going essentially with that?
Yeah.
If I can summarize that. Okay, so Russia passed a law in 2017 that was about the same as the following China's rules about VPNs, basically like paralleling their control over VPNs, and which was just basically a look the other way for your businesses, but clamp down on individuals. If somebody tries to use a virtual private network, which is how you get out, if you want to watch or see a website that you're not allowed to see in a particular country. Like if you go to China, you will need a VPN if you want to contact your relatives or FaceTime them or any of that stuff. You're going to need that to do it. Same thing with Russia. They paralleled that. An interesting turn of events was that one of the only technological things that Russia got out of its meeting with China was Chinese anti-VPN technology and surveillance tech. It was the primary gift that China gave them.
Yep.
It was like, here's a bunch of, you want some stuff? You want some stuff that we have way too much of? Here's a bunch of cameras to keep track of your your citizens. And here's a bunch of stuff to, servers and software. By the way, with chips made in China that have backdoors in them, that was a big discovery last week, that Chinese chips that have been used in a bunch of stuff have hardware backdoors built in them, especially the surveillance stuff. So Africa was getting mad. The Saudis got really mad. There's under the table, they've been screaming at the Chinese that basically, like, you sold us this stuff on the cheap so we could spy on our people, just so you could spy on us spying on our people. It's amazing that all they did was extend the Chinese surveillance network to their own country. And Russia is, beggars can't be choosers. They did the same thing a couple of weeks ago. So China has just delivered a bunch of like anti-VPN stuff, for freedom. So that, I'm sorry, but Jimmy Dore's super chats are about to go down because the Macedonian hacker farms that run by Russia are going to be all under the umbrella of VPN censorship.
Well, I had two potential stories today.
Excellent.
For our happy ending.
Okay.
And the one of them was that since it is April 1st, this is actually now the first day where Russia is taking the chairmanship of the UN Security Council, which is not as happy an ending as possible, but the irony is apparent to everybody that April Fools would be Russia taking care of the Security Council. But that's not the story that I have for the happy ending, because I debated the both of these two, and I came with this one. There's a great story that leads into this whole VPN thing, because Ukrainian hackers pretending to be inside Russia and pretending to be a publication sent messages to the wives of an air wing, a bomber air wing that committed crimes in Mariupol, including bombing that theater where children and women were hiding.
Yes.
That is not the happy ending part of it. The happy ending part of it is this. So these Ukrainian activists, or they might have been connected to the military directly, I don't know, but they pretended to be a publisher in Russia, and they contacted the air brigade, the air wing group, and said, we would like to make a calendar of your wives.
Oh, wow.
So would you be so kind as to take pictures of yourselves, and we will publish a calendar, venerating you, that you can then give to your friends, loved ones, whatever, the pilots when they return, all the rest of it. The wives went out and did this on the tarmac. And it turned out, of course, what the Ukrainians were then able to do is to get their facial recognition going, and they were able to identify every single woman connected to every single pilot that committed the war crimes in Mariupol. And it was a great gotcha moment. And there are pictures there in social media of like all the wives standing in front of the flag of the fighter wing group or the bomber wing group or whatever it is. And there the Ukrainians go, oh, so you are Mrs. So-and-so, and you live here, and your husband is this guy, and he killed children. We gotcha.
Right.
So
yeah, these women
it's
were
sweet, but I'll take it as a happy ending.
Is that behind you or behind Johnny? That's you, I think.
That's me.
That's behind me.
Yep.
That's me.
All right. So it overall as a happy ending. That's a fairly hilarious one. It's pretty stunning. And for those that don't know, they actually
Ukrainians are so good.
It was brilliant. They tricked these women. By the way, thought this was going to be a sexy calendar, so they sent sexy pictures. Yes. And many of them kind of like topless on the tarmac or whatever. And so you're not only did you just get your husband in trouble for war crimes, you did it by displaying yourself in flagrante delicto in front of the the world. And
the Ukrainians are just so good at it.
They're so good at
it.
It reminds me of that scene in Blazing Saddles where, like, baby, you are so talented and they are so dumb. Like,
stupid.
Yeah. So I will say that one of the happy endings that may come from this, and it's unfortunate that it will come because of Gershkovich's being incarcerated, and hopefully we'll get hopefully they can trade him for somebody. But it's very serious. This is not a cool thing, but it's a very interesting spot that it puts the anti-Ukraine right-wingers, again, in opposition to Fox News, or at least the leadership at Fox News going forward, especially after we found out about this week all the texts and emails that were leaked that show that all the folks that were lying about how they felt about Donald Trump on the air and behind the scenes saying that they think he's an idiot. Thank you guys so much. Thanks for joining the show. Thank you, Chicago. Thank you, WCPT.
Thanks,
and
everyone.
We'll see you guys next week.
Thank you, Chicago.
That's right. And then Philip will be with me on Wednesday again, and Johnny Million and I will probably be recording a soundtrack to Trump's arraignment on Tuesday as we dual partner or something, because oh my God, Tuesday is going to be nuts. Love you guys. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. And remember, if you're ever confronted with a choice you think is the lesser of two evils, choose less evil. See you next time. So, yeah.
So the chat really wants to know, Phil, do you play guitar or any other instrument?
Oh, Phil, do you play guitar?
No, I am not musically inclined, unfortunately. I tried the saxophone when I was a kid, and it just didn't take.
You haven't thought about picking up a balalaika while you're over there? It's only got 4 strings. Come on, you can get an 8-string mandolin style.
I was thinking about picking up the fiddle.
Yeah, well, the nice thing about the mandolin and the fiddle, same tuning. Same tuning. So if you learn where the notes are on the neck, it's basically the same. It takes a little bit of practice because there's no frets on the, and Johnny and I, of course, love frets because you can be smart while being dumb. But
gotta have a fret.
Yeah, frets. Yeah.
Well, there's a wonderful Ukrainian American band called Gogo Bordello. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. Gogo Bordello has a fiddle playing, and there's a long history of that kind of sound.
Absolutely.
Whether it's balalaikas or whatever, mandolin to a certain extent, all that kind of like that twinkly kind of version.
Well, you don't have to tell me. Johnny and I watched the Moscow Music Peace Festival together.
And there's a
great song da, 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 da. Right, we're good.
Did you really?
Yes,
with
we watched. Well, we
Bordello?
weren't there, but we watched the Moscow Music Peace Festival together. When it aired on television, like together, and and there was a Russian, and I think they were like, looking back, they probably were a Ukrainian group performing Bang Bang, like they had a double name, kind of like Danger Danger, but they were like, their song was called
Gorky Park involved.
Gorky Park, yes. Yeah, was that what they were called, Gorky Park? Because I just remember that being in.
I know there was a band called Gorky Park.
Yes,
but check out Gogo Bordello. They have a song called Immigrante, and the violin is the fiddle in that is beautiful, magnificent.
Right.
So, you guys got to rush off, or should we do another question?
We can do a quick question real quick. I think we're, if that's all right with Johnny Million. I know he's always the one who's got.
Yeah, I've got one here from Black Eyed Lily. What does Phil know about the mysterious black smoke rings over Moscow?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, but those were weird. Those were really, really disturbing and weird. I don't know anything more than what is out there in the public sphere. But I saw those. Disturbing, to say the least. But, a lot of stuff is going on internally within Russia with things suddenly going boom. And it's I vacillate between it either being because their infrastructure is falling apart and because there's clearly some partisan activity going on internally in Russia. So is it some sort of weapon that the Ukrainians are using internally within Russia? Is it some sort of defensive weapon that the Russians are field testing and it's going badly? I don't know, but very, very spooky, very weird.
Right.
Don't like it.
There's also an article that came up that I was looking at that says Russia's Ukraine invasion is eroding Kremlin influence in Kazakhstan, which the embrace of decolonization is how they put it too, and I find it interesting considering how we talk about it and how somehow the tankies seem to miss the idea that this is Russian colonization. The embrace of decolonization is nowhere more evident than in Kazakhstan, the largest state in Central Asia and a regular target of imperialistic Russian rhetoric. In the years since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine began, Kazakh society has actively sought to accelerate ongoing nation-building processes amid a notable rise in anti-imperialist sentiment. Meanwhile, the Kazakh authorities have made it clear that they do not condone Moscow's military campaigns in Ukraine and refuse to back the war. That's a huge deal. And, and the deals they've been making with China on energy, hilarious.
And you're absolutely right that the tankies won't accept this, but look at the periphery of Russia. Look at the land that they have owned, that they've not owned, but that they have suppressed and absorbed into their orbit, and how quickly they are breaking away from them. And it's not the CIA that is making this happen. This is an indigenous grassroots movement to get away from Moscow, because Moscow's dominion is, and I would say this about Vladivostok or Ekaterinburg as much as I would say it about Tbilisi or Almaty or of course Kiev. Living under Moscow's thumb is tough going, because everything flows upward to them, and it's despotic because of that. Everything goes up, but in order to create such a system like that, you have to dominate down. And it's living under Moscow's rule is not a lot of fun.
Right. It's interesting to me when they talk about countries that they attempt to take over and all that kind of stuff, and we always talk about Kazakhstan, Georgia, or any of the stands, any of the things that they think or even parts of Moldova or whatever, but they just, and I find it like the timing's really fascinating. This just happened, but Russia named Hungary and added it to its list of unfriendly countries, which, I mean, considering what dicks Hungary are and how tough.
Because I think Orban is starting to succumb to some of the pressure from the rest of the EU.
Right.
At least I certainly hope so.
Well, I mean, considering Tucker Carlson, who's as Putin apologist as you can possibly get on primetime television in America, that he was just in Hungary touting kind of their white supremacist bona fides and their power as a country and yada yada, and he's all in on Russia winning this and that Ukraine's going to lose and blah blah blah. It's this ongoing thing, but the fact that turn happened in just a few months, because he was just there. I mean, I've lost track of when the fuck it was, like June of last year or some shit like that. Really weirdly, Tucker Carlson decides to go to Hungary and it was a little speech or whatever it was, and now, but a few months later,
well, and then they invited him to CPAC.
Yes, right, yeah, they invited Erdogan down there. Still not, but again,
Orban.
Yeah, Orban. Yeah, but they still butting heads against the anti-Ukraine pack in the Freedom Caucus, the Free Dummy Caucus. So do we have any other questions in there, Johnny, that we might have missed?
They're going to lose. Yeah, go ahead. Let's get one more one in. I don't want to keep you guys.
I've got one from Ed's 3D Tech. Can you ask Philip which Lend-Lease equipment Russia is using from World War II in Ukraine today?
Oh, yeah.
Sherman tanks.
Yes, right.
That's a great question. That's a great one to end on. So U.S. Lend-Lease. It's a bunch of Jeeps.
No.
A bunch of the old,
Didn't they go get a bunch of tanks from the Philippines, though? Didn't they go buy back, like, tanks from the Philippines that the Philippines were like using? You know, they're if you go down to if you go to Fort Knox in Kentucky, there's always that tank parked out front. It's a dummy tank. It's not a moving tank. It's just
drive past any VFW. Any VFW.
There's an old tank. Or an artillery system or something, an old one that's full of concrete, but it's still. So the Philippines had a few of these apparently, and Russia bought them back. Like, I don't know who chipped the concrete out of the inside, or did they even bother? That's amazing to me. The Telegraph, by the way, has an article.
Lose this war, so
the Telegraph has an article.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah, there is. It's interesting. The title is "Prepare for the Disintegration of Putin's Russia," and their take on the Chinese meeting is summed up, I think, in the opening line of the article, which is, as Beijing has recognized, there are opportunities for everyone in a catastrophic defeat for Vladimir Putin. That ultimately the Chinese meetings and the Chinese, like, I'm your buddy, I'm your pal, I'm your, is really vultures circling. And I totally agree. The idea that they're actually there to help is fucking lunacy.
I'll take it. I'm your buddy. I'm your pal. Now, where exactly is your best mine out in the east for X, Y, or Z? Could I get a list of tonnage that you are, that
maybe we can help you with the trucking,
extracting from this mine and that mine and that mine? Only just out of interest. We're buddies, right? We're buddies.
Yeah, we'll help you. We'll help you ship it out of there. We're just going to bring some trucks in full of our people, and they'll leave with a bunch of your stuff. That seems like a plan. That works, right? Just like we do in Africa. Oh my God! And you heard this thing about the Wagner Group, like downplaying their involvement in Ukraine, saying that they're really going to focus on Africa, and that they were doing 3-month contracts in Ukraine, but 9 to 12-month contracts for higher pay in Africa. Like, obviously, hashtag the best people are not being sent there. So, hi, love you.
Did you see the stuff of post indictment discussions?
No, hold on one second. My girl's right here.
That they showed. Yeah, go for it. They showed a picture. They showed a picture of they had mocked up. They used a chat GPT or whatever the heck it is. They'd used an AI to do a mock-up of Trump in the court, wearing an orange.
Oh yeah.
Not a jumpsuit, but a proper orange suit.
Yes.
With a tie, an orange tie, all the way.
Right.
As much as they love to talk about how much Trump is their puppet, they also love to mock him. So
yeah, of course, because again, they feel towards Trump the way Trump feels towards the women that fuck him. Absolute contempt. If you have low self-esteem and you think you're garbage, the last thing you're going to think of someone who wants to hang around with you is that they are smart and discerning, intelligent people. Because if I'm an asshole and I know I'm an asshole, and you don't know I'm an asshole, what kind of asshole are you? Like, that's essentially the argument. And the same thing is, like, this asshole actually thinks we got a grip on all this shit, and when we don't have a control of our country, this place is a dump, but we got him by the balls. I guess that's something, right? Yeah. Jesus.
Yep.
That
there are millions of Americans who follow him. So,
Right. Yep. Well,
that's Russia for you.
Fewer and fewer, but I agree. Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's do one more, and then we'll let everybody go.
He's a loser. Oh yeah, let's do one more. Sure. I'm always happy to take questions.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Miss P Dubs wants to know if Phil thinks that Putin's illness makes him more dangerous.
Again, I hate speculating on Putin's thought processes and his what goes on in that devious little mind of his. I mean, I don't think it makes him more dangerous in the sense of I'm going to leave a legacy, so I'm going to nuke him. Mm-hmm. I think it may make him more dangerous in the sense that I have nothing to lose personally.
Right.
So I'm gonna push this as far as it can go. But I don't think he's thinking legacy in terms of his imminent death, if indeed that's on the cards.
He's not a true believer. That's the thing. He believes in this landmass idea for Russia, but not the purity of the Russian people. It's not. That's where he differs from the German Nazi movement, or fucking the Manson family or David Koresh or fucking Jonestown. Is that it's the true believers who are like, all right, if I can't have you, no one will to the world, right? They treat the world like an X. You're not allowed to fuck anybody else. I'm going to kill you, and. He's not that person, and he's also, even if in his addled brain and his hard fade that he's on, let's say he's on his deathbed, the hedonistic oligarchs around him who live off, the pleasure constant, the constant pleasure principle, which is that whole party like a Russian idea, that fucking nouveau riche, drug-addled, hookers and blow asshole behavior of the Trumps and the Uday and Kusei kids of all these dickheads. Like, those people want to live. They want to, even if it means, they would rather go to jail for a while if the promise on the other side that somebody's like, hey, it's like a mafia. Like, hey, kid, you kept your mouth shut. There's a reward on the other side. If there's even a hope of that, they'll take it. Versus like, none of them are wearing suicide vests. And that's what you're talking about. This is the question is, at what point, if ever, does Vladimir Putin become a suicide bomber? And I just don't see it happening. I don't see anything.
And also, I'll tie it into the two. What I'm generally talking about here in Ukraine and the war, and my expertise with Russia, and then I'll tie it in to what's happening back stateside with the orange idiot. Is that once it is shown that they are no longer invulnerable, that they are weak, that they are compromised in any way, shape, or fashion, then the whole house of cards comes crumbling down. There's a fundamental need in autocratic systems, whether it's Trump or whether it's Putin, that they are shown to be beyond reproach, beyond weakness, that they're strong physically, mentally, structurally, whatever it is. But the second you see a weakness, whether it's an illness or getting indicted, that suddenly all the guys who have resented you all along and have hated you and have been waiting for there to be blood in the water, they will circle so quickly. Both Trump and Putin, for different reasons, I think, are really screwed.
I agree. It is. They have prided themselves. They have lived under the illusion that they are great whites, when in reality they are just another hammerhead shark. And the minute a hammerhead shark gets a nick on its body, the rest of them just rah, and they're done. That's the end of it. If you've never seen a hammerhead shark frenzy, it's a sight to see. I watched one up close once, and it was from a boat. It was gnarly, a sailboat nonetheless. So that is very much what it is. They have this idea of them being nomadic and perfect, when in reality they are just grist for the mill, like food for their own, their own like cannibalistic circle that they run in. So, anyways, love you guys. I'm gonna let you go and take out myself. I've got.
Johnny, always a pleasure. Hal, I'll see you on Wednesday.
Yes, I love it, Johnny. I'll see you on Tuesday.
Stuff. I'll let you know if there are any updates.
Yes, please. And then I will do the Humane Society thing for everybody in the chat. And thank you guys for the super chats today. It really helps. And I know we don't pick our questions based on super chats because other shows do that, and I think it's kind of a dick move. So we try to get everybody in there, and we appreciate you guys understanding and just supporting the show on its own, not as a way of muscling your way to the front of the line. And those that super chat with a question, I love you for doing that as well. Totally great. And I know you're cool about being in there in the mix. So it's really nice. It's very, like, for me, it's heartwarming to see that that's how the questioning goes on this show. It really is, because it's a new thing in that regard. So anyways, love you guys. Take care. And I will see you next time.
Bye everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. Thanks so much, you guys, as well. Don't forget, on your way out, give a thumbs up, support the show, like, subscribe, yada, yada, yada. I will see you guys Monday morning. I'm going to try and arrange a guest for our, FAFO Eve Part 2 for Monday. Wish me luck. And then, it is the weekend. I gotta go weekend stuff. I got a honeydew list as long as my memory. What are you talking about? What do you think I was gonna say? What did you think I was gonna